of this. The truth is in the triangle. You are 100%, your partner is 100%, and then you guys bring parts of yourself into the system and you create a new relationship. Okay, we'll get there. And that's the whole premise. So first and foremost, every single thing is a system. Okay? Beginning with yourself, and now we're talking about relationships. So we already understand that you're a system that's quote unquote broken, trying to pick up all of the pieces, all of the archetypes. Now we're expanding this to relationships. So you and your spouse are a system. This could translate into families, into Jennifer and her daughter, into me and my kids. This does not have to be only relationships, but I'm using it in terms of relationships because I want to explain where the triangulation that we talked about brings in problems into relationships. Every single one of us here, that's the sheep. The one before that looks like the infinity,
yes.
That's the poster. That's a super important poster.
Okay.
I need to explain that every single person comes from a triangle, from a triangulated relationship, your mother and your father, so that you can understand why you have triangles in your relationship. Every single relationship has a triangle. It has to. Whether it's video games, whether it's work, whether it's another woman, whether it's alcohol. There is something in your relationship that is pulling the attention away from you or your spouse that is causing a conflict. That is a basic understanding of this model. So write that down. Everything is a mirror. We know this, right? What is going to happen in this model? Absolutely, and in this case, it's going to be your partner. Every single thing you do not like about your partner is what?
You don't like about yourself?
You don't like about yourself, and you're going to beat the shit out of your partner because you're going to blame him or her for not taking out the garbage or the laundry or whatever it is. Ms. Rapacci, what is it that you don't like about Vinny?
He takes too long to talk. Like, takes his time, and I'm like,
Get it? Hurry up! Can you see her gesture archetype right there? Okay, so somewhere she feels she's too slow. Validation needs the creator archetype, the
going.
Mars, the ego. Somewhere she hasn't been fast enough in something that irritates her about him. It doesn't have to be in talking. But somewhere there's something in that person. So you see that the moment that someone gives you a judgment about the other person, they're already giving you the whole key to their issue. That's a validation need right there.
Yeah.
And we just saw it when we did the personal archetypes. It's the same message. It's the same message over and over and over again. We're not that complicated.
We think we are.
We think we are,
We'd
yes,
like to
because of
think
the
we are.
layer of shit that is this. Okay, number 3, we create everything. Sound familiar? You see how these tenets are overlapping? What does this mean, people?
We create the good and the bad.
Okay, so Jonathan, argument recently with your spouse? Some petty thing?
I made a joke she didn't like, that's about it.
Yeah? About herself? Can you elaborate?
It's pretty personal, but sure, why not? You know, when women are not in relationships for a while, they kind of let themselves go in a certain second chakra area. And so,
You did not call her fat.
No, and I was teasing her that when
Oh.
we met, it was a jungle. And I referred to it as a chia pet. She did not find that funny. She gave me the dirtiest look I've seen in so long. I was like,
Oh
oh
my
my God, I'm in trouble. She was not
That is
good.
so funny. Okay, so why would Jonathan create that? Why would you create her not being happy with the comment?
I was to make her laugh, but I don't know.
No, that's the mundane answer, but after having been in my class for 6 months, girls,
That's the man urge. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, what is it that he needs to create? Step 3 in the model. What need does it fulfill for him to create for his wife to be upset, or annoyed, or frustrated, or pissed off?
I forgot to mention her mother's visiting, so I was doing it to make her mom laugh.
Okay.
You
And they're
said that
very
in front of
close.
her mother?
Yes,
Oh
oh my god,
my.
they're so close.
Jesus.
We get along like crazy. I get along better with my mother-in-law than my mother.
Well, that's good. That's actually.
That's the whole Freudian thing in itself, right?
Mother-in-law,
Yep.
I get along better with my mother-in-law than my own mother.
Oh, we're both Taurians.
Yeah.
There
And
you go.
we this way, it poured a few months ago, and I was like, oh, I want to run out there. She goes, me too. We ran out in the rain, just the two of us, and got soaked and laughed, and it was years ago. We still talk about it and say, I wish it was rain again. Yeah, me too.
She doesn't live locally?
But no, she lives in New York. But my wife would never think about going out in the rain. You know, she's like, umbrella, you know, that kind of thing. So I love to make her mom laugh, and so it was just meant to make her get a good giggle.
Well, you just are funny.
Funny looking.
He's always making little jokes. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, remember, the reason we create something is because there's an unfulfilled need. People, this should be just rolling off your tongue. We create everything because there's what, Marcia? An unfulfilled need. So somewhere Jonathan has an unfulfilled second chakra. No, I don't know. Maybe his 2 sons make him have an unfulfilled second chakra. That comes from where? Where does this unfulfilled need come from?
Parents.
From either mother or father, right?
From childhood, right? From, well, the moment of conception, but yes, from your parents. Okay, so really, him needing to say the joke is really to get his wife to be mom or dad. Is your wife your mother or your father?
It's my wife, my mother, and my father.
Oh, I don't know if he knows that.
Neither.
Everybody's mother or father. Who
Yeah,
wants
you-
to interrogate?
We always marry
what do you-
one
No,
of the
I
other.
understand the theory behind it, but the only thing they have in common is hair color and eye color. Everything else is
Okay,
could not
and
be
we
more
call
distinct.
that, if they're nothing alike,
Oh,
0 to 100, it's duality. So if the client does not think that the person, place, thing, or situation is their mother or father, as in his case, which is fine, he's a virgin to this language, right? What do you ask? What's the second question? No, what's the second question in the model? If it's your mother or your father, somewhere he has an unfulfilled need. Somewhere he had to crack this joke and get her frustrated. Who was frustrated, mom or dad?
In my life, mom.
It kind of makes
What
sense.
don't you like about your mom
What don't I like about my mom?
and her frustration?
I could go on for days. This
Is she
you're-
sexually
it's like
frustrated?
on Facebook, is it?
uh,
Because
Okay, don't answer. Well, your face isn't on there.
He's so
So-
just like me, like.
change your voice.
Hello.
Okay, my point is that someone is frustrated, mom or dad. If the client can't identify and they're telling you a story, I made my wife annoyed or frustrated with this joke. Oh, is your mom or dad? Remember, he hasn't been in the class. Your client is going to be taught this first session, so they're going to understand the language. You see, when the person doesn't have the language, perfect example. But now we're educating the client and we're saying in our model, and the way we work in here, every person, place, thing, or situation is either a representation of your mother or your father. So the fact that your wife was frustrated with the joke means that she represents mom or dad. Which of your parents was frustrated? You say mom. So now we know that the reason he fulfilled that need, or the reason that he created that joke to frustrate his wife, was to fill an unfulfilled need from mom. What part of the triangle is mom going to be at?
She's gonna be on top.
Yep. Why? So
Because
Jonathan,
the alliance is between him and his father.
exactly. And so you try to integrate whatever your mother couldn't give you into your life. That's why we're fragmented. We are not wholly integrated from our parents. So when we put someone on the outcast, every single one of us has mother or father as the outcast. What we need to do is integrate that person, those qualities into us. Then we start becoming whole. Then we start believing we're God. Then we start understanding we're a complete puzzle piece, even though we're an absolute disaster and hate fill in the blank about ourselves. So what you try to do by creating a joke is really try to assimilate and integrate the frustration that your mother has, that you have to be frustrated somewhere, because if not, this wouldn't come up, into your own life. Number 4. Your partner equals your parent. The partner, look at the letter.
Mine does.
Partner equals parent. What's the leftover letter?
The parent?
R. Redo. You did not get your needs fulfilled by your parents, right? Or who got their needs fulfilled by their parents? Nobody. Remember, we came to meet their needs. They didn't fulfill your needs. The reason that you choose your particular parent is so that you can get your needs met by a surrogate mother or father.
So does your spouse or significant other become the surrogate?
They are the surrogate, and you're their surrogate. You might be her mother, and she's trying to assimilate her
You
mom.
just said it.
She told me yesterday, we're so much alike. I'm like, yeah, I guess we are.
So both you and your wife perhaps have mom as the outcast. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is just the way it is.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, sometimes it's horrible, right, of course.
Because man, my husband sometimes is like my mom. And
If
she
you,
drives me
this is the
crazy.
way it's supposed to be. The mother, the father, and the child. The parents are supposed to have the alliance, and the child is supposed to have alliance with both parents. Then the child would be whole. That's perfect balance of chaos and structure. Mother, father, male, feminine. Well, none of us are like that. We either had the affiliation with mom or we had the affiliation with dad. That means that someone was outcast. Whatever parent is outcast is the one you're going to be in relationship with most of the time. Most of the time, 90, 99% of the time. And what you're trying to do, and why we create chaos, and why we create conflict, and why we create problems in our life, is so that we can integrate and assimilate the outcast parent into ourselves. Basically, it's the bad bucket. So here, your mother's bad bucket, you haven't made okay yet. And you need to assimilate that into you. Once you're okay with your mother's not so great qualities, you have permission to become whole, to be the perfect puzzle again. Until then, you're fragmented.
Those alliances can change in time, could they not?
Yes, we change them. Good point. We tend to what I call the 3 turns of the triangle. We start with one alliance, we switch to the other in attempt to balance both, and then if we do it differently, then we have the alliance with ourselves, which in essence, this mother, father, child becomes what, Marsha? Adult. And this is what we call transactional analysis.
And what if they won't let you become an adult?
That's you.
Mm-mm.
That's called you liking your Costco card, and you want to remain a child. Most of us want to remain children.
Yeah, I don't know that, but okay.
This is global.
Well, like with me, when I was a kid, my mother and I were super close. Dad was always working, never saw him.
Okay,
And
so your
then
dad could have
growing
been the
up,
first turn of the triangle.
He and I didn't get along, still don't get along. And then lately, my mother and I don't get along, so I'm kind of the outcast now. We got in a big fight 7 weeks ago, whatever, she hasn't spoken to me since. And so it's like, all right, I tried to tell her what was bothering me. Something was bothering me. I tried to tell her so that she would understand me. She turned it around to herself, took it personally, and then.
But why does she have to
pushed me
take
away.
it personally? Why does his
Because
mom?
It's something that she's reflecting on herself.
Yeah, she hasn't.
And because why?
Because she hasn't
It was
fulfilled
uncomfortable.
me.
Yeah.
Right, and your whole
Yeah.
job
Was to fulfill.
was to fulfill her needs, so she has to make it about herself.
Yeah.
You don't have permission, and you will never get permission from your parents to grow up
Yeah.
and meet your own needs, ever. That is on you to do it. On you to do it. That's what we call switching from the Costco membership, our mom and dad, to the Nordstrom card, or store of your choice. I happen to like Nordstrom. Okay. Number 5, the home.
I know,
The home, in quotes. What are you mumbling? You're loud.
What did
They're
they say about
watching.
you? Guarantee you,
It's a movie.
if that's just a movie, they hear you every word. Believe me.
Yeah, well, they're
The
loud.
home you create is the marital home. Let me explain. When does the marital home begin?
At
From
night.
the beginning.
Yes, what is that?
Relationship.
Nope.
Oh no, well it begins from your mother and your father because you're trying to exemplify through them. Like
Yes, but it
the-
starts when? Your mother and your
from
father?
conception.
From conception.
From the origin story.
Yes. Yes. Forget the words marital home. Forget a building, forget a house. Your parents never knew each other. They never lived together. Your grandmother interfered. They never met at the tree and ran off and got married. They had sex and they conceived you. That home, okay? That marital home is you. The home you create, the home that you create with your partner is representative of the moment of conception. Where your parents were at the moment of conception, is the house that you've created with your partner. Can you see that, Marcia?
Yes.
Where?
Well, that's mind blowing.
Where can I?
Isn't it?
Because my parents got in a fight, separated. My dad tracked her down, begged her to go, to come back to me. They went to a Dolphins game, and I think I got conceived in a Volkswagen bus.
That's cool.
But I'm just saying, like, the idea, right? But the idea that there was a fight that led to
You're
reconciliation, which then led to conception, tells a lot about my life.
And then your home, your marital home, must reflect them. In astrology, here I have my little shitty chart. This line here is called the descendant. There's 4 main lines in the chart. This is called the midheaven. This is called the IC. And this is called the ascendant. These are the 4 main things. Remember I told you about the crosses? This is the cardinal cross. In your chart, you're going to have 4 arrows, or 2 arrows that turn into these 4 pieces. This is your home. This is your marriage. Whatever your parents did became your home. Home doesn't only mean the marital home in which you create Marcia and Joab. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Joab.
Joab.
Yeah.
It-
You have such great memory.
Also, the home you create internally. That is your story. There has to be a fight, there has to be a chase, there has to be a conception of something. So when you're gonna conceive, let's say a new book, you're gonna fight, you're gonna chase, then you'll conceive it. So not only is it the marital home that you are creating, it is also the inner circle, which goes back to the original theory of your conception story.
Could it be going back to the second one? Everything is a mirror. Can you see in your significant other one of your parents, like in the sense that you're trying? Well, yeah, I think you answered that.
Absolutely.
That
You see both of your parents, because both parents are what?
But you assimilate that person more to one, and that's where the problem is.
Yes,
Oh,
very excellent point. First of all, your parents are the exact same person. Your mother and your father are the exact same person, two sides of a coin. That's our or 0 to 100. How many of you have parents that are so different? My father is crazy, impulsive, he's fast, he's a go-getter. My mother is a Taurus, she's so patient, she's so calm, she thinks about everything 100 times. How am I saying that they're the same exact person? They're just the opposite sides of the spectrum. One's the 0 and one's the 100. She's the 0 in terms of movement and he's hysterical. She's super patient, he's super impatient. Your parents are the same person. But going back to your comment, absolutely. You are trying to assimilate the one that you have the wrong alliance with.
And I'm trying to fulfill my own need of acceptance.
Exactly, because once you accept your parents, once you accept the bad bucket, once Jonathan looks at all of the bad bucket items, or you look at all the bad bucket items, let's say it's your mother, that you have that's on the outcast, because your dad you loved, and then he died, and you went on my pedestal, and blah, 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 we know the whole story. Once you assimilate that you are your mom, now I'm whole. Now I can be whole.
But why then do I go for the bad bucket and guys and not want to go for like the good guys? Why do I
That's what
always
you
Because
end
you
up
don't necessarily think
with
your
the
mom is
hood
good.
prisoner type, the gangster? I always end up with the shitty guys, the ones who've been in prison and all that. And then the guys who are awesome and amazing, I just push away from
This sounds like
that.
what we were talking about before, the idea of having paradise. She has the option to have the best.
Absolutely.
And she chooses
Chaos and
chaos
structure.
because of the fact that she feels that's just what she deserves, maybe?
Well, and that's what we do. We definitely create chaos and chaotic situations rather than structure and stability because we don't think we deserve it because we said to God, fuck you.
Or it's more
We
fun.
left your paradise, who am I to have it here?
But is there anything to do with the idea of wanting to change that person? Maybe you have a maternal instinct that says,
Yeah, I do.
oh, he's
I
been in prison,
always
he's a piece of
do,
shit,
like-
so I can make him better.
Yes, but that's an unmet need and that has to do with her innocent archetype.
That's
What is
that's
that?
what.
That's the
Poseidon.
Neptune. It is Poseidon.
Well, there you go.
But I realized that you
Oh, okay.
can't change until.
And
you
isn't it
want
ironic
He
that
has to
this
want
is
to
the
change,
symbol
Yeah,
to
exactly.
psychology?
Yeah,
Because
Which one
we
is?
want to change.
yeah,
But we don't make people change. People change
exactly.
themselves.
Exactly. You have to want to change
give them the
because
tools.
that's where I.
You provide tools, but that's it.
Yeah.
You lead them to awareness and
Mhm.
maybe some integration.
And
But her need to change that guy is the same need she has to change her mother. And that need to change that guy or her mother is the same need that says, oh, I'm a narcissist. I have control over something. She doesn't have control over anything. We don't have control over anything. That's why we all get into the helping professions. Because then we're channeling with permission. We have permission to tell someone something. But you don't have permission somewhere in your life, often with the parents. And oftentimes, most of the people drawn to this sort of profession are drawn because as a young child, during the 0 to 7, they were given a false belief that they made their parents happy. They brought the good grades, they slept through the night, whatever it is. And they said, oh, I can actually make someone happy? Cool. Now I'm a narcissist. I can control how the other person feels. Not narcissistic personality
Yeah,
disorder.
how does that turn into a narcissist?
Not MPD,
Okay.
but in the sense that a narcissist like saying, oh, I can control how someone else feels. I have no control
But it
over
would seem,
anyone.
in that example, that that would be based on variable reason. So if you did it to make yourself feel better, or you did it because you genuinely have a desire to make others feel better.
It's always self-fulfilling. We rarely work from an agape love. It takes a lot of work. We first have to accept that we left paradise, accept that we chose the flesh and the desire. We then need to find a version of self-love to then be able to serve thy neighbor as ourselves. We are not that evolved. That's why there's one Mother Teresa, one Gandhi, one Mandela. So few and far between. And even Gandhi was a narcissistic attorney when he first showed up in India. This is by no means. This took years. So
And Teresa took money from drug dealers to be able to pay
that's,
for the
yeah,
housing.
that's what
so,
they
you know,
say. Absolutely. Hey, but you do what you got to do when you're trying to serve. And that's why service, true service, is ultimately the biggest thing that you could do. That's why it's love thy neighbor. Look, yesterday I went to my apartment complex and I want to get out of my lease. And I was crying. I had a very, very bad day yesterday. And the lady hadn't arrived yet. And it was like 30 minutes. They said she'll be here in 20, 30 minutes. And it's true, she got there around 20 minutes. And I'm crying. I'm waiting for her. And I see her come in. And I see that the two people that were attending to me didn't go and say, hey, you have someone waiting for you. And so I tapped the guy and I said, hey, is that her? And he's like, oh, yeah. He comes out and he's like, she can't see you right now. She has to post the rent checks and she'll call you tomorrow. And I said, no, that's not acceptable. I said, paperwork doesn't come before people. And I walked back to her office and I said, I'm sorry, but paperwork does not come before people. I am here. You can post your checks in a few minutes, but I have some questions. The lady was rude as shit. Rude, like beyond belief. And the day that I got the call that I might have the metastasis, I was with her. And she's like, oh, you may not know, but I understand. Leads me to believe either I've been through this or there's someone in my family who's been through this. And I said, are you the same person who 2 months ago told me that you understood what I was going through? I said, you don't treat people like this. Anybody. Forget that I'm dying. You don't treat people like this. And she was super rude.
Even after that?
Yeah, I asked her for her card. I said, what's your name? I swear to you, I did not raise my voice.
So many people.
I was so calm. And
Like
I was
pissed her off more.
emotional and I was like talking low. And I said, may I have your name? And she took her card, she threw it in my face. I mean, ridiculous. She refused to answer my question. I said, look, I just have 1 or 2 questions. Like, I'm not gonna take but 2 minutes of your time. I mean, this was not something I wanted to sit and have lunch with you for an hour. Like, and we're all guilty. We're all guilty, believe me. But for us to get out of our own way, for us to really serve another human being truthfully, that it's not self-serving, we have such a ways to go. And that's what the age of Aquarius is all about, that we're in now. That's why the social media, and that's why.
It's so crazy. There's so many people are like that now. Like, I see it everywhere. I mean, even in my Disney trip with the kids, even at Legoland, I'm talking about even the people that worked at Disney, which surprised the heck out of me because
Yeah, because they're trained to.
I used to get Disney training every year, my Marlins, and like, I just wasn't used to seeing this. And especially went to Pensacola and come back, it's a whole different world. Southern hospitality is, you don't want to ever come back to this. But
It's not the
it's
South.
just, it's so many people, they don't care. They'll tell you that
Apathy,
they understand what the heck that you're going through. They don't understand shit. They don't understand shit.
Jen,
It's also like the way that they
Thank you.
treat you. It's like, you know that obviously they're going through something themselves, but
Of course,
you don't have
and
to take it out on others.
that's the free will, and that's the showing up as the bigger person.
Right.
But sometimes it's like, I need you to meet my need right now. I recognize you're going through something, all people are in pain, we've talked about this. But